Dear students, our today's topic includes work of breathing, airway resistance, and dead space. Let us start with work of breathing. So, what is work of breathing? To move the air into the lungs, respiratory muscles have to do some work to overcome following resistance: tissue resistance and airway resistance. Now, this tissue resistance is divided into elastic resistance and viscous resistance. So there are total 3 resistance which have to overcome by the respiratory muscles. Airway resistance is caused by friction of the gas molecules between themselves and wall of the airways. Now these are the components of work of breathing. Work done to overcome the elastic resistance is maximum, about 65%. Work done to overcome the viscous resistance is 7%. Work done to overcome the airway resistance is 28%. So elastic resistance is maximum and viscous resistance is minimum. Now how to calculate this work done? By plotting change in the lung volume versus change in the intrapleural pressure. So in the last lecture we have discussed compliance diagram delta V upon delta P. Same diagram is used for calculation of work of breathing. The total area represented by this graph is proportional to work that must be performed by respiratory muscles. Normal value of work done is 0.3 to 0.5 kilogram meter per minute, and it represents 2 to 3% of our resting oxygen consumption of total body. Now this is our compliance diagram delta V upon delta P. So on y-axis there is delta V, change in the volume, and on x-axis there is change in the pressure. Here we have taken intrapleural pressure. You can see two blue color lines during inspiration and during expiration. So AXB is line during inspiration and BZA is the line during expiration. Then you can draw an imaginary line between A and B joining with C. So you can see there is a vertical line coming from A to C and there is a horizontal line coming from B to C. Now let us discuss what to do now to calculate work of breathing. Now let us start with inspiration. You all know inspiration is an active process. So there must be work done. Now again see the graph. Now focus on a triangle AYBCA. So this is an area which is reflecting work done to overcome elastic resistance. Then focus on the area AXBYA. So it is reflecting the work done to overcome viscous resistance and airway resistance. So as we have discussed, elastic resistance is about 65% and rest is viscous and airway resistance. So you can compare the area. AYBCA is a very large area while AXBYA is a small area. Now let us discuss work done during expiration. Before discussing it, just try to remember expiration is a passive process, and whenever the process is passive, work done is almost zero. Now let us discuss in graph. Now focus on the area AYBZA. Okay, so this area is reflecting the work done to overcome viscous resistance and airway resistance during expiration. Remember, it is during expiration. Now it falls within our already plotted area, that is AYBCA. So this AYBCA that we have discussed in the inspiration part is to overcome elastic resistance. So already we have stored some energy during inspiration, and this energy is used during expiration. So no extra work is done during expiration. This is for two resistance only. Remember, viscous resistance and airway resistance during expiration. Now, as far as elastic resistance is concerned, there is no need to overcome it during expiration because our lungs are like balloon. They have natural tendency to collapse. So no need to do further. Now carefully watch both the diagrams. Both are abnormal diagrams. Okay. Now the uppermost diagram is the diagram of calculation of work done during RLD, means restrictive lung diseases. You can see the shape is abnormal. Okay, and now see the below diagram. It is the diagram of calculation of work done during OLD, means obstructive lung disease. You can see in this obstructive lung diseases it is bulge and some part of the graph is going beyond y-axis, dark area, while you can see in the above diagram of restrictive lung disease more work is shown during inspiration and diagram is horizontally flattened. Now let us discuss further what happens in the restrictive lung disease is the patient has to overcome higher elastic resistance or elastance forces for normal tidal breathing. So more work has to be performed by respiratory muscles during inspiration to overcome decreased compliance. Remember, in restrictive lung disease, more work is required during inspiration. So to minimize the work done in restrictive lung disease, doctor will advise the patient to go for rapid and shallow breathing. Now story is different in obstructive lung disease. Examples you all know: asthma, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, all are obstructive lung disease in which airway resistance is increased due to obstruction. Now here the patient must generate increased pressure gradient to produce adequate airflow during inspiration as well as during expiration. So here more force is also required during expiration. So here work done can be minimized by slow and deep breathing. So if a person is suffering from obstructive lung disease, doctor should advise for slow and deep breathing, and if the person is suffering from restrictive lung disease, doctor should advise for rapid and shallow breathing. Now let us discuss in detail about airway resistance. Airway resistance is the resistance to flow of the air in the airways, and it is due to 1. Internal friction between the gas molecules. Second, friction between the gas molecules and walls of the airways. Now this type of the airflow you will also learn in cardiovascular system in type of the blood flow, in which you will learn in detail about turbulent blood flow. Now here you can see in the diagram there are two types of the flow are visible. One is laminar in the A and second is turbulent in the C, and third is transitional in B. So laminar flow is normal silent flow with multiple layers overlying each other, while in turbulent flow there is generation of currents, eddy currents. So all the molecules will strike in between as well as with the walls of the tube, while in transitional flow there is mixture of laminar flow and turbulent flow. Mostly it is laminar, but at bifurcations, at joints, at turns, at obstruction, it will convert into turbulent flow. Now the gas flow in larger airways in nose, mouth, glottis, trachea and bronchi is turbulent, while gas flow in the smaller airway is laminar. And breath sounds heard with the stethoscope reflects turbulent airflow. Laminar flow is mostly silent. Now let us discuss about control of airway smooth muscle. Airway smooth muscles are controlled by autonomic nervous system. Adrenergic receptors, beta receptors causes dilatation and muscarinic parasympathetic receptors causes constriction. So sympathetic system is doing relaxation of the bronchial smooth muscle and parasympathetic system is doing constriction of the bronchial smooth muscle. Then there are special non-adrenergic and non-cholinergic nerves which causes bronchodilation and the neurotransmitter involved is VIP, vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Then there are few local factors or local hormones like histamine. When it binds to H1 receptors it causes constriction, and when it binds to H2 receptors it causes dilation. Then there is a chemical slow reactive substance of anaphylaxis. It is liberated during anaphylactic shock. It causes constriction and it is mainly liberated during allergic response to pollen. Then prostaglandins. If it is from E series, it will cause dilatation, and if it is prostaglandin F series, it cause constriction. Then comes the environmental pollution like smoke, dust, sulfur dioxide, some acidic elements. This all will cause constriction of the airways, and it is mediated by parasympathetic reflex and local vasoconstrictor reflex. Now our third and last topic of today's discussion is dead space air. So what is dead space air? It is the portion of the minute ventilation that does not take part in exchange of the gas. In the lung volumes and capacity lecture, we have discussed minute ventilation or respiratory minute volume, and it was equal to tidal volume into respiratory rate, and normal value was 6 liters. Now out of this minute ventilation, some part of the gas cannot reach up to the alveoli and therefore it does not take part in gas exchange. Normal volume of this gas is around 150 ml and it is called dead space air. Now this dead space air is divided into three types. What is anatomical dead space? So it is the volume of air present in the conducting zone of the respiratory passages. Now try to remember our first lecture of introduction. What is conducting zone? So conducting zone is that part of the respiratory tree that starts from nose all the way up to terminal bronchioles, and this all part does not take part in gas exchange process. So the air which remains up to terminal bronchioles cannot take part in gas exchange process, and volume is called anatomical dead space. Second is alveolar dead space. So it is the volume of air present in those alveoli which do not take part in gas exchange. So if a person is suffering from any disease and alveoli are affected, then some part of the alveoli does not take part in gas exchange process, and volume of the air in that alveoli is called alveolar dead space. Now third one, physiological dead space. So it is sum total of anatomical dead space and alveolar dead space. Now a person who is normal, whose lungs are working normally, alveolar dead space is always zero. So anatomical dead space and physiological dead space are same. Now carefully see this diagram. Now there is a red line visible, recorded nitrogen concentration. So to calculate the dead space, an instrument is required which is called nitrogen meter. What is the procedure is, initially the person is asked to take inspiration of pure oxygen. So what will happen? This oxygen will enter into respiratory tree and it will fill all the conducting zone part of the respiratory tree as well as some part of alveolar air. Now person is asked to do expiration in nitrogen meter. So initially nitrogen meter will not detect any nitrogen because oxygen from the dead space will come out. Then gradually the alveolar air will start coming and this alveolar air contains nitrogen. So now nitrogen meter will start recording nitrogen and the concentration of the nitrogen starts rising and then it will reach to a plateau level. That plateau level indicates that now the air is purely coming from alveolar space, that is out of the dead space. So at that point, now you can see the graph. There are two areas visible, gray area and the pink area. So this gray area is actually dead space area. So you can see the red line is converting into plateau line at around 150 ml. So the anatomical dead space is normally 150 ml. But how to calculate it based on this graph? Let us see the calculation formula. This is the calculation formula of dead space. VD means volume of dead space and VE means volume of expired air. So if you want to calculate it, you have to calculate pink area and gray area in centimeter square and then put the values. So volume of dead space is equal to gray area multiplied by volume of expired air divided by pink area plus gray area. So if you will put all the values, you will obtain around 150 ml. Now after calculation of the dead space, now we can further calculate another parameter which is called alveolar ventilation. Now this is not pulmonary ventilation that we have discussed in the lung volumes and capacities lecture. There is difference between pulmonary ventilation and alveolar ventilation. So here the definition is, it is the volume of fresh air which is the gas exchange area of the lung each minute. VA means volume of alveolar ventilation is equal to frequency means respiratory rate multiplied by into bracket tidal volume minus dead space volume. Normal respiratory rate is 12, normal tidal volume is 500, normal dead space is 150, so our result is 4.2 liters. So our respiratory minute volume or our pulmonary ventilation was 6 liters because at that time we were also taking into consideration dead space. But dead space does not take part in the gas exchange. So we should remove it in the final calculation. So our true alveolar ventilation is 4.2 liters. So this was all about our today's topic of discussion. Thank you.